Order out of chaos magic, the dark roots of the alt-right. October 24, 2016. Shunner 45 comments. Recently I ended up on a crazy connecting mission, thanks to information presented to me by Hugh Wyatt Mann. Some interesting information is starting to come together after releasing my video on the alt-right and Eurasianism, which discusses how the New Right and the Trad Workers' Party Youth Division, called the Traditionalist Youth Network, use the chaos symbol. Notice how Matt also uses sigils in his Jesus Loves You sign. Sigil magic is a major component of chaos magic. The chaos magicians believe that creating sigils with a certain intent will magically bring about said intention. A close associate of the Trad Workers' Party, and the alt-right in general, is known anti-white psychopath, Alexander Dugin. Dugin also totes the chaos symbol. Dugin has some other interesting associations, in particular with Richard Spencer of alt-right fame, as well as other major players. Here we find out more about Dugin's connections to chaos magic. The misanthropic ideas of British occultist and Satanist Aleister Crowley, d. 1947, do however inform both the Duginist worldview and its contemporary praxis. Indeed, it is within the worldview of chaos magic specifically, which is a spawn of Crowley's Thelemic philosophy, where much of the paradoxes and seeming contradictions of the Duginist Weltanschauung, and especially in its fourth positionist catch-all of beyond right or left, must be sought, since this is, whether explicitly articulated or not, the actual animating locus of the Duginist far-right praxis, beginning with its choice of symbology, i.e. his Eurasian flag of 8 white or yellow thunderbolts, or arrows, shaped in a radial pattern and set behind a black background. This symbol by itself is alternatively referred to in chaos magic as the will of chaos, the symbol of chaos, arms of chaos, the arrows of chaos, the chaos star, the chaos cross, the Chow sphere, or the symbol of 8. Somewhat reminiscent of the Thule Society and then Hitler's own appropriation of the swastika from the writings of Theosophical Society founder H.P. Blavatsky, d. 1891, Dugin derives his design from the popularizations of it made by Western chaos magicians during the 1970s to 1980s, who themselves appropriated it from the work of British science fiction and fantasy novelist Michael Moorcock. For anyone not aware, Dugin was the founder of the National Bolshevik Party, which should be sending some red flags for you all. In the 22 countries where Dugin's International Eurasian Youth Movement have a presence, including the US, UK, Serbia and Turkey, there are fascist paramilitary defense leagues working in tandem with them. Remind anyone of Operation Gladio? Dugin's movement is closely tied to the European and American New Right, which also chose the chaos symbol to represent their movement. Coincidence? I think not. Many on the New Right, and alt-right, scene not only go along with Dugin's vision of the future, but also embrace some dark magic. For example, Grinder Greggy, one of the New Right's favorite faggots, also has a high regard for Crowley, the known homosexual and alleged child and animal rapist. Apparently butt sex and orgies with animals is an important contribution to the New Right. He also mentions the philosophy of Thelema, which was Crowley's religion. Interestingly, Augustus Sol Invitus, white advocate, lawyer, and red ice guest, is a Thelemite. There was a major uproar from the public regarding his goat sacrificing ritual. The religion of Thelema is based on a philosophical law of the same name, adopted as a central tenet by some religious organizations. The law of Thelema is, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will." Crowley and Thelema have been a huge inspiration for many people in the so-called counterculture, spawning many different magical movements. One of these offshoots was founded by a group of chaos magicians. The Church of the Subgenius is a parody religion that satirizes better-known belief systems. It teaches a complex philosophy that focuses on J.R. Bob Dobbs, purportedly a salesman from the 1950s, who is revered as a prophet by the Church. Subgenius leaders have developed detailed narratives about Dobbs and his relationship to various gods and conspiracies. Their central deity, Jehovah One, is accompanied by other gods drawn from ancient mythology and popular fiction. Subgenius literature describes a grand conspiracy that seeks to brainwash the world and oppress Dobbs' followers. In its narratives, the Church presents a blend of cultural references in an elaborate remix of the sources. Did you notice how they refer to people not in the Church as normals? Interesting how the alt-right uses the term normies to refer to those not initiated into their cult of Kek, with Pepe as its prophet. Also, did you notice how they are wearing Nazi-looking armbands and they raise their right hands in a Sieg Heil fashion? The Church of the Subgenius literature incorporates many aspects of conspiracy theories, teaching that there is a grand conspiracy at the root of all lesser ones. It records that there are many UFOs, most of which are used by the conspiracy leaders to monitor humans, although a few contain extraterrestrials. In the Church's view, this conspiracy uses a facade of empowering messages but manipulates people so that they become indoctrinated into its service. The group holds that the quality of slack is of utmost importance, but it is never clearly defined. Subgenius members believe that those in the service of the conspiracy seek to bar them from slack, 21 equality promoted by the Church. Its teachings center on slack 4, always capitalized, 17 which is never concisely defined, except in the claim that Dobbs embodies the quality. 123 Church members seek to acquire slack and believe that it will allow them the free, comfortable life, without hard work or responsibility, which they claim as an entitlement. 1124 Sex and the avoidance of work are taught as two key ways to gain slack. 17 Davidoff believes that slack is the ability to effortlessly achieve your goals. 21 Cusack states that the Church's description of slack as ineffable recalls the way that Tao is described. 8 and Kirby casts slack as a unique magical system. 25 The Slackware Linux distribution is so named after the tenet of slack. Slack magic has been discussed and seemingly endorsed by conspiracy veteran Freeman Fly and his ex-girlfriend Jamie Hanshaw, who is now with Jay Dyer. This video from the Church explains what slack is and why it's important. Their god Bob Dobbs also uses the famous OK hand gesture, used prominently by Trump and his sycophants. The OK hand sign is really just a code for sodomy, and it often seems to be boy rape in particular. In some Mediterranean countries such as Turkey, Tunisia, and Greece, in the Middle East, as well as in Brazil and parts of Germany, and several South American countries, it may be interpreted as a vulgar expression, either an insult, "you are an asshole," the slang for anus itself, or an offensive reference to homosexuality. The gesture is also known as the fraternal sign of the Gabe. The alt-right members who were banned from Twitter have led an exodus over to Gab.ai. Gab.ai uses the green frog, which we see all over the alt-right in the form of Pepe the Frog. We see many of the Trump-ians throwing up this hand sign naively, not knowing what it really means. I'm sure these figures below know exactly what it means. Back to Bob. When I first saw the picture of Bob Dobbs, it looked eerily familiar. I remembered that several of the trolls dedicated to harassing me and other renegades on Twitter were using Bob Dobbs as their avatars. Here is one of those accounts, interacting with someone else. Robert Anton Wilson also joined the Church of the Subgenius, who referred to him as Pope Bob. Wilson was the brains behind Operation Mindfuck. The goal of this operation was to attribute all national calamities, assassinations, or conspiracies to the other member groups. Although not necessarily related, this reminds me of how Hillary has claimed everything against her and her husband is a result of a vast right-wing conspiracy, and has called out the alt-right and Pepe as being involved most recently. There are other interesting instances of this type of behavior, such as every time there is hoax shooting, we see Sam Hyde being put forth as the suspect. Robert Anton Wilson also helped popularize the Discordian movement with his Illuminatus trilogy. There are a number of similarities between the Church of the Subgenius and Discordianism. Eris, the goddess of chaos who is worshipped by adherents of the latter, is believed by members of the Church of the Subgenius to be the wife of Jehovah One and an ally to humans. Like Discordianism, the Church of the Subgenius rejects absolute truth and embraces contradictions and paradoxes. Religious scholar David Chidester of the University of Cape Town views the Church as a Discordian offshoot, and Kirby sees them as a child of the Discordians. Underscore 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 on. The Discordians planted stories about the secret society in various leftist, libertarian, and hippie publications, introducing the Illuminati to the counterculture. We accused everybody of being in the Illuminati, Wilson recalled. Nixon, Johnson, William Buckley, Jr., ourselves, Martian invaders, all the conspiracy buffs, everybody. This reminds me how the alt-right will accuse anyone who points out their controlled opposition movement as a leftist shill or libtard. Robert Anton Wilson's work also inspired the notorious Illuminati card game. There is a lot in the deck that is relevant to us, but 5 cards in particular caught my attention in regards to this topic. The first one is entitled Dobbstown, which seems to be a reference to Jonestown, but is obviously also referencing the subgenius god, Bob Dobbs. This was the highest quality photo I could find. I am interested to know what it says in the text. Here we see Bob Dobbs' face on a comet. We also see a Principia Discordia card. Are those supposed to be Obama and Hillary? We also see a drawing of a pentagon. Or is it the Pentagon building in DC that is known for its affinity for child rape videos? This next card has a man with a question mark on his shirt, which reminds me of the anonymous logo with the question mark replacing the head. It also has raining frogs, and what appears to be a black version of Pedo Bear / Spurto Sparde. The idols are both frightening and silly, and no one knows why the masters keep them around. Pepe. Keck. Could these cards, and the reaction to the New World Order, have been part of an artificially manufactured kind of magic trick played upon us by chaos magicians? Is meme magic simply chaos magic repackaged? Pep represents Keck, an ancient Egyptian frog-headed god of primordial chaos, and is now a symbol of white nationalists, whether we like it or not. Pepe the Frog is a meme that has been used by millions of people in a plethora of ways. These people have no idea what else this meme could be used for and probably don't care anyway. There is even esoteric geekism, which appears to be another type of parody religion, such as the Church of the Subgenius and Discordianism. Many of those on the alt-right believe that through the power of chaos magic or meme magic that even the worship of fictional deities can have real-world consequences. Pepe originates from Matt Fury's comic series Boys Club. Ha! Now Fury is teaming up with the ADL to take back his cartoon from evil racists. The Times of Israel states, Matt Fury will create a series of positive Pepe internet memes that the ADL will promote through its social media channels with the hashtag #SavePepe, the organization announced in a news release Friday. It appears that the rise of this Pepe meme may not be organic. This frog meme has been seeded into the minds of many, who once again proudly carry the banner of their enemies, as stated to happen in Protocol 1 of the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. Brought to our ranks, thanks to our blind agents, whole legions who bore our banners with enthusiasm. When the dots are connected, showing Crowley's dark magic is at work within the controlled opposition alt-right, it starts to paint a very revealing picture of manufactured mindfuckery. Thoughts? Comments? Finovar. 6 years ago. Dugin may not be an actual Bolshevik. From Against the Modern World by Mark Sedgwick. As we will see, there was later a second transformation of similar magnitude. When Dugin began to move from the sphere of the CPRF toward the political mainstream under President Putin. These transformations did not indicate inconsistency on Dugin's part. Like Evola, Dugin's primary loyalty was to his own ideology, not to other people's political movements. Dugin's own explanation of his first transformation from anti-Soviet dissident to associate of the communist leadership was twofold. First, in 1989, he made several trips to the West, addressing new right audiences in France, Spain, and Belgium. These visits were important for bringing about a major change in Dugin's own orientation. Having for most of his life believed the Soviet reality to be the worst imaginable, he found to his surprise that the Western reality was even worse, a reaction that was not uncommon among Soviet dissidents encountering Western realities. Second, the modification of his political position was completed by the events of August 1991, when a State Committee for the Extraordinary Situation in the USSR, the GKCHP, failed to establish control of the Soviet state during a poorly planned coup, and instead initiated the final dissolution of the Soviet Union. The document, generally regarded as the manifesto of the GKCHP, was Slovo-K Narodu, a word for the people, published on July 23, 1991, in Sovietskaya Russia, and written by Dugin's later associates Gennady Zhuganov and Alexander Prokhanov. 21 By his own account, Dugin was so disgusted by the crowds in Moscow calling for democracy, freedom, and the market that he finally found himself to be pro-Soviet, at the very point when the Soviet Union ceased to exist. And to complete the explanation of how a traditionalist came to be aligned with Marxists, we must turn briefly to some special characteristics of Russian political life in the immediate post-Soviet period 33, where the standard divide of Western politics into left, right, and center did not really apply. From the early days of perestroika, liberalism had been radical and communism conservative. When organized political opposition to perestroika surfaced within the Communist Party itself in 1990, crystallizing around the CPRF under Gennady Zhuganov, it was aligned ideologically with Prokhanov's Patriots. This alliance began the formation of a common front that is frequently described as the Red to Browns, the CPRF being the Reds and the Patriots being the fascist Browns. Dugin himself preferred the label red to white. Buttercocks. Reply to Finovar. 6 years ago. Right, Dugin and his followers are national Bolsheviks, that is his background. Stupid wiki. https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/national_Bolshevism. Hermit. Reply to Hens. 6 years ago. Bob Dobbs. Dobbs? Dubs? Is this part of the whole double/triple digits in a message post number that has idiots repeating dubs and check M over on the chance? Seems like it. It's ritualistic and like a simple conditioned response. Very good article overall, and I just happened to finish reading a few sections in Crowley's The Book of Thoth/Egyptian Tarot on the Trump/ATU card Zero the Fool. It literally describes that the initiates and the highest-minded perceive unity in polarity and contradictions within symbols. So the crocodile of the Nile, used in many Egyptian tales, represents prepubescence and the later full-blown sexual fertility. Death also represents life, as the energy cycle does not begin and end with life, reincarnation. I find some of what's promoted to be useful in terms of natural order, but it's clear that the potential Jewish influence on Crowley seeped into this work even if he didn't realize that it was going to be used to promote white genocide, which I don't think he knew about, but I'm completely open to information to the contrary. So there is no doubt in my mind that they are using many of the things he mentions. The unwashed masses are supposed to only perceive the single meaning from a symbol. Death means death as opposed to the cycle of death and new life, etc. Heimbach has the features of some Jews and his TV airtime is highly questionable. They clearly control as much of the narrative as possible, which includes promoting their own figureheads for resistance to the change they promote. I don't see a problem using some of the useful things from books such as Thoth, which is what books like Futhark seem to do, except with positive Aryan concepts attached to the various cards. Productive, moral systems, that provide a compass for attitudes and actions are extremely useful given our ties to traditions have been severed in most people. Futhark may be one of many ways back and to help organize higher functioning independent groups whose cumulative actions can act as a force multiplier and bring in others who otherwise would have no compass in our largely leaderless resistance. I'm not remotely a fan of the ritualistic/superstitious type behaviors behind the whole dubs thing though. It strikes me as silly and failing to yield anything other than cohesion on a primitive level. May as well have the followers say ribbit every time they see double/triple digits in a post. It would convey how simple-minded and pointless the response it better. Reply. Bjorn again. Reply to Hermit. 6 years ago. Outstanding article. Hermit, I feel like I've discussed Crowley with you before. I've still got the Book of Thoth sitting in my pile unread. I'll have to give it a shot. Jim B. 6 years ago. This from Max Handel's The Rosicrucian Cosmoconception, Chapter 11, pages 246 to 249. There is but one spirit pervading space. Life and form, its positive and negative poles, are one. This state of things was what Greek mythology described as chaos. The ancient Norsemen and the Teutonic mythology call it Ginnungagap, which was bounded upon the northern side by the cold and foggy Niflheim, the land of mist and fog, and upon the south side by the fire Muspelheim. When heat and cold entered the space which was occupied by chaos or Ginnungagap, they caused the crystallization of the visible universe. In our present materialistic period we have unfortunately lost the idea of all that lies behind that word space. We are so accustomed to speaking of empty space, that we have entirely lost the grand and holy significance of the word, and are thus incapable of feeling the reverence that this idea of space and chaos should inspire in our breasts. To the Rosicrucians, as to any occult school, there is no such thing as empty or void space. To them space is spirit in its attenuated form, while matter is crystallized space or spirit. Spirit in manifestation is dual, that which we see as form is the negative manifestation of spirit crystallized and inert. The positive pole of spirit manifests as life galvanizing the negative form into action, but both life and form originated in spirit, space, chaos. To get an idea from everyday life which will illustrate, we may take the hatching of an egg. The egg is filled with a moderately viscous fluid. This fluid, or moisture, is subjected to heat, and out of the soft, fluidic substance comes a living chick, with hard bones and comparatively hard flesh, and with down that has a comparatively hard quill, etc. When a living chick can come out of the inert fluid of an egg without the addition of any hardening substance from outside, is it a far-fetched idea to claim that the universe is crystallized space or spirit? There is no doubt that the claim will seem foolish to many, but this book is not for the purpose of convincing the world at large that these things are. It is intended to aid those who inherently feel that these things must be, and to help them to see the light upon this great world mystery, which the writer has been permitted to behold. The special object at present is to show that spirit is active all the time in one way during manifestation, and in another during chaos. Chaos is not a state which has existed in the past and has now entirely disappeared. It is all around us at the present moment. Were it not that old forms having outlived their usefulness are constantly being resolved back into that chaos, which is also as constantly giving birth to new forms, there could be no progress, the work of evolution would cease and stagnation would prevent the possibility of advancement. It is axiomatic that the oftener we die, the better we live. The poet initiate, Goethe says, who has not this ever dying and bringing to birth will I remain a sorry guest upon this dismal earth. Therefore, as students of occult science, it is necessary to realize that even during active manifestation it is chaos that is the basis of all progress. Our life during chaos is based upon our life in active manifestation, and vice versa, i.e., what we are able to achieve during active manifestation, and the ability to progress at all, is the result of the existence in chaos. Sir Algernon Farnsworth. 6 years ago. These are some dark people and dark times, with great sorrows ahead of us. It seems Angelo Gage is in the midst of his MK Ultra programming, as witnessed by his shaved eyebrows, which seems to symbolize a metamorphosis of personality. I believe Gage was picked by military intelligence to become a spokesman for the upcoming alt-right. The intelligence community would have had pre-knowledge, as the alt-right was invented by a Jewish NGO and given to Richard Spencer, whose wife is non-white and, by the way, actually claims Stalin did not have millions of innocent Russians murdered. Fed Lice, Red Ice, David Duke, Don Black, Richard Spencer, Andy Anglin, John Gage, Matt Heimbach etc. are all attempting to pave the way for this new fascist paradigm, signaling to the unwary the great joys of a dictatorship under the Trumpenführer. This programming is merely a new way to soften the masses into accepting a one-world government under Jewish Noahide law, where the Jew sits supremely upon its throne, whilst the muddy Goy competes for scraps from their Jewish masters' polluted tables. Do not fear that all is lost, as I know or have bumped up against many exceptionally bright individuals at genius level, alone or within secretive groups, and always working together, who themselves are steeped in occult practices, both within government and without, who are very organized and moving to counter the unnatural black practices being woven against our people. This coming war will decide all of our fates, as those who follow natural law cannot help but fight back, as they understand there is no other way forward. Germany attempted to follow this righteous path under National Socialism and was utterly crushed for it. The mistakes made by National Socialist Germany will not be made again. We have had decades to prepare and we will win. Reply. Julius. Reply to Sir Algernon Farnsworth. 6 years ago. Andrew Mongoloid Anglin and Matt the Injun Heimbach not even are white. Reply. The Unbeholden. Reply to Sir Algernon Farnsworth. 5 years ago. You understand that new fascist paradigm would prevent Jews from ever being able to influence our economy in any way, shape or form. Also Trump couldn't be further from a fash symbol. Reply. TZX. 6 years ago. Nice to hear someone else remembering those cards. From Trump, could also mean he is meant to fail, to Twitter frogs from there to hackers and WikiLeaks, Assange. Not to mention Flat Earth card appearing in 2016. Is just a coincidence. WikiLeaks was apparently founded in 2006 while the card game released in 1994. TZX. 6 years ago. Nice to hear someone else remembering those cards. From Trump, could also mean he is meant to fail, to Twitter frogs from there to hackers and WikiLeaks, Assange. Not to mention Flat Earth card appearing in 2016. Is just a coincidence. WikiLeaks was apparently founded in 2006 while the card game released in 1994. Obama. Not to mention 2 cards dedicated for Israel. Though I have to say I consider reality to be an eternally ever-forming chaos that keeps reshaping itself into a new forms of chaos, order. I guess this thought line might fall towards direction someone such as pre-Socratic thinker Heraclitus. One of the pre-Socratic thinkers in particular, Heraclitus of Ephesus, c. 536 to 470 BCE, the Dark One, was looked upon by Ludwig Clausius as the founding father of biocentric, or life-centered, philosophy. Clausius and Heraclitus share the conviction that life is ceaseless change, chaos, eternal flux pantare. Both thinkers held that it is not matter that endures through the ceaseless patterns of world transformation, it is the ceaseless transformation itself that is the enduring process, which alone constitutes this ever-shifting vibrancy, this soaring and fading of appearances, this becoming and passing away of phenomenal images upon which Clausius bestowed the name life. Likewise, Clausius and Heraclitus were in complete accord in their conviction that natural events transpire in a succession of rhythmical pulsations. For both thinkers, nothing abides without change in the human world, and in the cosmos at large, everything flows and changes in the rhythmical and kaleidoscopic dance that is the cosmic process by Joe Price. Heathen Vegan. Editor. 6 years ago. Very good write-up. It's amazing I hadn't seen it before your article. I should have clicked when I kept seeing misanthropic division and cult of KEK all over people's bios on Twitter. The chaos magic counterculture is very appealing to many young people in modern nihilist times. It kinda take YOLO to its ultimate level. It is something all genuine nationalists should completely avoid. It is quite literally our opposite when it comes to ideals. Reply. Bolverkr. Reply to Heathen Vegan. 6 years ago. What can you say about misanthropic division and what's behind driving it? Reply. The Unbeholden. Reply to Heathen Vegan. 5 years ago. True. But it's being used for sowing discontent among liberals, which is good. The god Kek is using his ancient power to help us convert people to a more traditionalist mindset. Reply. Citizen of TRS. 6 years ago. This is the most rambling, unrelated, misinformed, out-of-order article I've ever read. The whole cult of Kek thing is more of a joke than anything else, a symbol for what the alt-right has been able to do. I don't understand the anti-Trump rhetoric. I also don't understand the linking of people who have nothing to do with one another except meeting at some conference once here or there. These people you label as alt-right and connect to Gab.ai, they are not alt-right. Alt-right is white nationalism 2.0 and is led by the right stuff, Red Ice, Radix, Countercurrents, etc. You guys need to get with the program. Also, what proof do you have that Greg Johnson is gay? You're attacking people who are otherwise your allies. Reply. Kel. Reply to Citizen of TRS. 6 years ago. Greg Johnson does constantly vouch for gays being allowed in the alt-right. Reply. Sonant. Reply to Kel. 6 years ago. The Alt-Kike. Reply. Shunner. Author. Reply to Citizen of TRS. 6 years ago. Yeah, I guess that article where Greggy says not liking faggots is Jewish was just in my imagination. Any straight guy would say that. Reply. Steed. 6 years ago. Interesting thoughts, Sinead. Worth remembering though that the old Germanic practice of binding runes embodies precisely the same magical principle as more modern sigil magic. It is something I've done, with great success. It is a tool for the initiated and we must learn to wield better than our enemies do. Jews have been using this kind of stuff on us for centuries, probably millennia. The reason they created Christianity, then atheism/materialism, is to sever us from knowledge of these magical, for want of a better word, practices that we might then muster against them as a defense. Reply. Otto BNDT. 6 years ago. That's some level of programming. Thanks for this info. Way under the radar. Postmodern art at its most malevolent. Reply. Mary Catherine. 6 years ago. Thought, CRAZY. Reply. Alt. 6 years ago. I don't know what to make of this, but it's thought-provoking and very well written. Reply. Eclectic Radio. 6 years ago. Don't agree with the overarching theory, or a lot of the connections made, but this is great info. Back a good 8 years ago I was head of a Discordian group in Ireland, that's my philosophy and I honestly think it's legit. What's interesting about my story is that upon making a website for the group I was harassed by the old guard of the Subgenius, who own the domain Subgenius and also the most frequented website for reading the Principia Discordia, so basically these no-life loser trolls have the whole scene on lockdown. My presence online was not tolerated at all and I was even tricked into typing out my master password in the dream which they were snooping on. Okay, you might not believe in magic, but I do, so F you if you don't. I tell this story because there is something going on here. Hail Eris. Reply. Shunner. Author. Reply to Eclectic Radio. 6 years ago. You're a Discordian? Reply. Renegade. Admin. Reply to Shunner. 6 years ago. Discord, lack of agreement between people, ideas, etc. An unpleasant combination of musical notes. Reply. Wardo. Reply to Renegade. 6 years ago. Carrie Thornley and the rest of the early Discordians were hippies and would have been appalled. I assure you they are all spinning in their graves. Rorode. Every type of bigotry, every type of racism, sexism, prejudice, every dogmatic ideology that allows people to kill other people with a clear conscience, every stupid cult, every superstition, written religion, every kind of ignorance in the world all results from not realizing that our perceptions are gambles. That doesn't sound very alt-right to me. Reply. Elaine Woodruff. 6 years ago. Wonder if Pepe the Frog is a symbol for the frog in water that is gradually heated until it boils. Thomas. Reply to Elaine Woodruff. 6 years ago. Controlled Up over at Rediki.tv tries to say that it's the fish that jumped out of the boiling water. So apparently that means it's just like white genocide. Red Ice Creations Lana and Henrik are acting really fishy, spreading almost Sully, only, alt-right material and Pepe the Frog stuff. Radio Arian 2. I feel safe to say that Dennis Wise of TGSNT, the documentary, is safe though. I know he's on the Trump train, but he sees the Israeli part and all that and has pointed it out, so he's aware of the other side. We'll see with these other groups, I suppose, but Red Eye seems to be letting European white Americans down, heavily. Reply. Afterthought. 6 years ago. Amazing and powerful article. I have had troubles with the alt-right in general, and now they are into demon worship, black magic, and the like. Can this end well? No. There wasn't much wrong with the traditional right, except that the Jews subverted it to their ends. Restoring the traditional right means removing this baleful influence, but we ought not throw the baby out with the bath water. In other words, we know what makes a society function well, we know what makes society great. The problem is we no longer have the power to implement that knowledge because of a democracy subverted by the Jewish media and massive third world immigration. Things like neo-reaction, fascism, and the like are born out of a frustration that we all share, but we should not have the core of the movement be mere frustration. There needs to be a positive, holy vision of the good. There needs to be red lines as well, such as not invoking demons. This is actually what brought down Vedic culture, and what prompted the split between Eastern and Western religion. In the East, Asuras are evil and Devas are holy. In the West, Devas, devils, are evil and Asuras/Ahuras are holy. Kek is a vessel into which demonic forces would gladly incarnate, and probably already have. Is there any wonder why the alt-right constantly talks about gassing people, burning people in ovens, dropping them out of helicopters, hangings, and firing squads, all without due process of law, I might add? Right makes might. Evil makes weakness and defeat and possibly extinction. Reply. Rev. Funny name. 6 years ago. At first I thought you didn't get the joke. Then I thought you did. Then I realized that you didn't, but you're still telling it and that just makes it funnier. I need to remember the most important rule, Feetage. Keep all your faith in Bob. Reply. Mitooki. 6 years ago. I found Lonald Def's mother's blog, http://inbodyexperience.com/blog, Verilk Def. I archived her whole site so we can keep it for reference in the future. http://web.archive.org/web/2016183838/http://inbodyexperience.com/blog/ p=150. Reply. Kevks. 6 years ago. One thing on Sigil Magseek, the belief is that symbol unlocks codon memory. Therefore by flashing the sigil I can cause an emotional response from the end user, which is an available vat of power that an adept magician can use. Let me know if you need help with your articles, that you may achieve success in presenting your message to a wider audience. I like you articles, can't stand the misconceptions, then credibility comes into question. With highly accurate descriptions it may be possible to appeal to an audience that has studied this information. Reply. Mukunda Dasa. 6 years ago. Prabhupada predicted cannibal rulers and a message to the Aryans from the alt-right. https://udo.be/jokez7qozy. Reply. A traditionalist. 5 years ago. Yes, meme magic and chaos magic are the exact same concepts. On the other hand, connecting Crowley and Dugin with Discordianism and the alt-right may be a step too far. Sometimes, similar concepts and similar symbols can and do arise at different times and different locations without there being any real connection, or at least not any obvious connection beyond our minds are all connected and other pantheistic concepts. On the other hand, controlled opposition is definitely real. Also, the principle of Ordo of Chaos is known to have been used by Freemasons and related organizations to shape the world around them. So maybe you are right. I honestly can't tell anymore. Reply. Aaron Go. 5 years ago. Food for thought here, thanks. So far, it has served me well to stay away from groups that are not life-producing. In other words, groups that are okay with semi-white leaders, are okay with pairing with non-whites, that are okay with homosexuality, these are anathema to me. Importantly, people who have no intention of having children strike me as unhealthy and I will probably stay away. It is such a natural thing to have children. Even Negroes do it. I don't know that personal lives of the people that write here so it I've offended anyone, it was unintentional. Reply. Easter McBunny. 5 years ago. Do you really not get that Subgenius is a joke? A wonderful, complex, taken to its extreme joke. Making fun of all of this? I am telling you to help you dig out of your dense tangle of crazy. Reply. Random. Reply to Easter McBunny. 5 years ago. SHHH. Reply. None@none.com. 5 years ago. Symbol used since the 19th. See Quakers https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Quakers. Reply. Feirin. 5 years ago. That looks like Kyle with Jonestein giving the butthole OK sign. Reply. Renegade. Admin. Reply to Feirin. 5 years ago. That's Baked Alaska. Reply. Apollos. 5 years ago. The Satanist/fag connection goes too far. Chaos magic seems to actually operate in rebellion to what Crowley taught in terms of methodology. It originated in the 80s and basically teaches that magic works because we believe it does, regardless of what methods we use. Crowley was obsessed with high magic, complicated rituals involving all sorts of bizarre crap. Chaos magic seems to be the culmination of all these different magical theories coming to one final conclusion, that ritual really doesn't matter, and you can even summon the Thluha gods if you wanted to, as it would make no difference. I've met a huge number of occultists, and without fail, they tend to be National Socialists. If you want to blame anyone for that, you can blame Evola, Savitri Devi, or the historical occultists within the National Socialist movement, who certainly weren't raping kids or sacrificing animals. Reply. Live. 4 years ago. Richard Spencer's Russian wife celebrates the victory of the Bolsheviks over the Nazis. Karl Martel. 4 years ago. Sick, disgusting and evil. This is the reality of the countless false philosophies and ideologies of our time. They all have the same diabolical, chaotic force behind what sometimes even appears to be beautiful and right. Reply. Way. 3 years ago. Also interesting to notice the pipe, exactly like the Agent George Lincoln Rockwell.